All right, guys, it looks like we are live again. I am a little late getting my coffee. I have my little tiny coffee cup and what's left in my little stroopwafel. So we are living the dream tonight. Have a big fat cup of coffee, and I have probably about 2,000 pounds of coffee behind me. And I have a fly coming around that's worrying me to death. I moved the the podcast tonight, and you can see I've got my cat cable so we can go load a little faster. It's just sort of draped from the ceiling. But anyway, if you guys follow us, which most of you don't because the Instagram is fairly new. It's on Instagram. It is Legacy Farms Coffee 2010. We need to get you guys to start following us. The Legacy Farms Coffee is on Facebook, which we're sort of moving away from Facebook. And then here on YouTube, it's Legacy Farms Coffee 200. So that's all the places we're going to be for right now. We will not be doing TikTok or anything like that. This week, the big deal is our coffee came last Friday or last Thursday. We unloaded it in 100-degree weather. It might have been less than that. It wasn't too bad. When I say it wasn't, and when I say we, I think 11 guys from the Mound Ridge football team came out, and then both my sons, my wife, and one of my martial arts instructors, she came out. And so between all of us, we got it done. The truck was 2 hours and 15 minutes late getting here. So it was fun paying labor to literally sit under a shade tree. I think we figured it's like $190 an hour is what it's cost us to wait on that truck to get here. But he clearly let me know that it was not his fault. So we're live on YouTube tonight. I haven't decided what's the best place, so we're sort of swapping up to see who views us in what place. But I don't have good lighting tonight, so half my face is shadowed. But I don't really have a good side, so it doesn't really matter. And I see my fly friend coming by. Anytime I roast coffee, we have cows out here. Anytime I roast coffee, the flies try to get in. So I think there's sort of a big one and a little one. So I'm hoping they both die. I have my fly swatter. I'm gonna do my best. But everything went pretty well on the container. This year we have some really good scores. It's legacyfarmscoffee.com. Currently, we're only selling the new coffee green to roasters, but Monday we will start selling the new coffee roasted online. But right now, most of the questions that people were asking, again, was covering some of the processes and what the difference is in a few of those. I was going to compare a couple of coffees. There's two specific coffees that we have I wanted to look at tonight. Well, there's actually three that are accompanying coffees. So I'll save the best to last. Last year we had one we called the Fruit Bomb. It was coincidentally lot 26 last year. And again, this year it's lot 26. Last year it was cocoa and blackberry. This year the flavor notes are fruit, cocoa, and honey. So I've yet to taste this one. It'll be fun to finally taste it and see how it tastes when I roast. Two of the coffees, there's a lot 12 and a lot 30 that are both on the website. They're both a Lempira variety. Lot 12 is a canal washed, and lot 30 is what's called red honey. Exact same plant from the same lot on the farm. One of them has caramel, honey with a dry finish, and the other one is chocolate, caramel, and a nutty finish. And those are two, they're the same plant, but processed differently. So they have sort of similar profiles. The two that I'm super excited about trying. Yeah, I'm going to save the best to last. We'll look at these two. Both of these are Perinema. Both of them are red honey process. Both of them came from the same original heirloom plants, which means I got them from my buddy's farm. He got them from his dad, who got them from his grandfather. They've been replanting their own seeds for years. And so in Honduras, that's what we consider heirloom. The only difference between these two, one of them is a lot 5, the other one's a lot 4. But on these two farms, they were picked at the exact same time. One farm is a little bit behind the other one. So they were picked at the same time. The plants came from the same original farm. They're both the same variety. One of them has caramel and citrus are the flavor notes on it. The other one is cocoa and ripe fruit. Again, same process. They were probably drying on the same patio in the same weather conditions, but two completely different flavor profiles. The one that I'm most excited about is there's a Marsellesa. There's a red honey process and a natural. And I'll go over the processes in a little while. But we've got some of the craziest, most unique flavors. Both of these, I only have one lot. So they both came out of the same lot, same plants, bought them from the same nursery. These actually we bought from a nursery. The honey processed has a flavor profile of honey and baked bread. And those are the flavors you should perceive when you drink the coffee. The second one has mango and ripe fruit. So there's a dry fruit. There's you could have green apples or you could have sweet apples. There's a lot of, but it's very distinctive when it says ripe fruit. The only thing that would be better is when they describe the actual fruit, which they did. They said it's ripe fruit and mango. So those exact same coffees from the exact same farm. And it's for me, it's really interesting to see some of the ones that are the same plants that are such a unique difference. We've had cupping, our highest cupping score. We'll start with the worst. The lowest we had this year was 83.5, which is 3.5 points into specialty grades. So we're always happy to get anything. 82 is a little sad. I don't like 82s. Last year we had 2 bags of coffee that were 78. So I roasted one of those last night and I flavored it with Jamaica Me Crazy. So that takes care of that problem. We had a couple of 88s this year, which I'm just really, really excited about. The first, about 3 or 4 years ago, I came into the house, I had a piece of paper in my hand and started tearing up. And literally, we had an 89.25. That was the highest best score we'd ever gotten. We've gotten half a dozen 88s over the year. But at that point, we had only had one 88. And so that year, and this was a bigger crop. It was an 89.25. And so I was just tickled to death about it. 88s are really great coffees, but we have half the crop is in the 84 to 85 range. The other probably 45% of the crop is in that 86 to 86 and a half. I think we only got 187 this year, and everything else just really came through well. And I am doing my first coffee delivery. That's a text from my buddy Jose. We're going to meet in somewhere in between Oklahoma and Houston, Texas. He's gonna rent us a spot. So Eli and I are going to drive up and meet him, sort of not halfway maybe, but we'll make an effort and deliver his coffee. My guy Santos that works on my farm. This is my guy Santos. One of my favorite guys. This was a picture taken from when Jose was actually on my farm. I donated the plants, and our bank on the farm helped him buy the farm. And then Jose flew up with his wife, Connie, and the two of them paid for the labor of the day, and they paid for the fertilizer. And so I brought out a lot of organic fertilizer, which is free for us. And then he paid for conventional fertilizer. Got the guys. I hit it with all my workers. We got the whole farm planted. It was probably about 1,500 plants in one day. And so I think we'd started digging plants before Jose got there. It shows this guy's got a good heart. And from that point on, he contracted all of Santos's coffee, which this year, everything is still sort of new. This year, Santos has 400 pounds and Jose bought it. He pays a great price for it. Life changing to Santos and Daisy and their family. They've got 4 kids, um, maybe just 3. I can only think of 3 names. But either way, he's got 3 or 4 kids. It's make a big difference whether they can finish high school or not. Frandy is actually finishing high school, and he's taking computer classes, stuff like that. We're actually going to be able to donate him a computer this year. So that's going to be that'll be a big deal for him. I'm hoping maybe Frandy can come in. We're going to keep sending him to classes, and we started sending him to English classes, which helps me greatly, not having to do everything in Spanish. I don't speak the best Spanish in the world, so that helps us. But it's been life changing having people like that are willing to buy a guy's coffee, and for 400 pounds, he has a regular size roasting company and all. For him to buy 400 pounds of coffee at a really good price is not going to change his life, where it will change Santos's life. Right now, we don't have any pea berry. We're fixing to come online with some pea berry. For anybody that doesn't know, coffee grows in a cherry. In Spanish, they call it uva, which is grape. It has the consistency of a grape, looks just like a grape, and tastes like a grape. We eat them all the time on the farm. But if there's 2 seeds, they tend to look like peanuts. They have a flat side. If there's one of those is deformed or doesn't grow, then the little bean is round. And they call them redondos. Can't think of the other name for it. But there's a couple of names they call it. I almost think it's carachil or something. Not important. Pea berry tends to be a little more dense bean. A lot of times it's packed with a little more flavor. Very little pea berry ever gets more than 1%, I think. It generally goes out with the trash, and the big mills that produce coffee just let it go out with the coffee because they've got so much profit built into their coffee. It's not worth sorting it out. So they send that. We jokingly say they send it to Folgers. I don't know where the coffee goes when we send our sub commodity coffees out. Somebody buys it somewhere for something. Most of it is probably sold in Honduras. But we will have on a washed Lempira in a pea berry, and I've got a very limited run of a full natural pea berry, and it's actually behind me in that bag, that little clearest green bag. I can't get used to everything being opposite. Probably 25 pounds, so there won't be much of it. Somebody called in today, which a lot of times is the best thing to do, call in, especially when it hits. We have a lot of tiny bags that are that don't get put online a lot. And so that's one of them. I'm going to go ahead and put it online Monday. So I'll offer 5 pounds of it roasted, and the other 25 pounds, we'll sell it green. So if anybody's interested in something pretty unique. The Marsellesa is a crop that I really enjoy. All the Marsellesas, 86 and 86.5 this year. So you can't beat that. There's a wash that I think is going to be an 87. Excuse me. We have Jonathan, but I'm not sure what his last name is. We shall see. The other crop that you guys were asking about is I'm going to have a very limited run of a crop that I bought from one of the neighbors near me. It's called Sargimore. And I bought just a little bit of it. I think we bought 800 pounds, 900 pounds in the cherry. And so that crop I split it into thirds, and it worked out where I've got the same crop, picked the same day. I've got some wash, some honey, and some full natural. So that crop will be split up 3 different ways. Bill is on watching. I'm not sure if Bill's going to be shy tonight or if he's going to come online. Jonathan, I clicked you in, but I am not seeing you. I think that you have to go to YouTube if you want to send me a message. I've got the comments on, or you can send me a message on Messenger, either one. I'll send you one. So if you're having trouble getting on, let me. But I've got your mic turned on, and I've got the turned on where I can receive. Sounds like I might be able to hear you a little bit, but I can't hear your voice just yet. Marciessa, right now we have 2 of those online, but on Monday I'm going to put on another washed Lempira, and the one I was going to put on it's a washed Lempira, scored an 86. It has got aromas of caramel and honey, and the fruits the flavors are red fruit and baked bread. So I've never tasted a coffee that tasted like that. The next one that I'm going to put on is going to be there's 2 of them. One of them is a red honey processed Perinema. It is honey is the aroma, but there's a thing that we put on tres leches, a dessert in Honduras. It's called dulce de leche. It's like some kind of caramelly kind of cream. And then the second flavor in it is grapefruit. So those are 2 very unusual things to have together. The sort of the caramely kind of and the grapefruit. So that one's going to go on here fairly soon. And then the same coffee, the same period. Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me, Jonathan?
No, it's playing through I'm trying to get it on speaker, but I can barely hear.
I can try turning my
I don't think it's you.
Have you got some earplugs, or I can try to speak up? And you're welcome to come on camera.
Yeah, that's better. I just got it on speakerphone.
Okay. I generally start the show out by answering a few questions that people have sent in. Most of the questions this week were talking about the current crop and what we've got online so far. I've got 2 Perinamas, 2 Marciessas, 2 Lempiras. No, I actually have 3 Lempiras. So I have a washed, a red honey, and a full natural Lempira. Then I've got a honey process and a full natural Marciessa. And then I've got an Ica 2, which we generally don't have much of, but we had like about 600 pounds of it this year. The Ica 2 is caramel with citrus notes. So there's some really unique flavors. I know this last year we didn't have a great crop. And so a lot of it, we have 4 or 5 big buyers that we have contracts with. So a lot of times they suck up the good stuff. So this year we have a little bit more coffee, and this year we have a lot of really good scores. So if you bought much coffee last year, it was probably the Lempira. So what have you been buying, Jonathan?
I think I've had the Lempira before. I know that. Trying to remember what else. I think I've gotten a couple varieties prior. I know Lempira was one of them.
Generally, that's a pretty consistent. The washed is pretty much chocolate with caramel. And according to how you roast it, about half the time I don't hit it right, but most of the time I can get a nutty finish on the Lempira. And then the red honey Lempira, I generally get a lot of good fruit notes out of it. So it's going to be a lighter chocolate, a lighter caramel, but heavier fruit notes. And then the Lempira Full Natural, everybody started nicknaming it the Fruit Bomb. So we just started calling it the Fruit Bomb.
Okay.
Coincidentally, it was lot 26 last year was called the Fruit Bomb. And then this year, the same lot, it cupped really well. But it is fruit, cocoa, and honey are the flavors on it. They did list fruit the first, but they didn't distinctively say blackberry like they did last year. So I haven't tried it yet. And some people were saying, how could I not have tried it? I had 47 different lots of coffee this year.
Sure, you got a lot.
And so what we do is we have a cupping table, and I'll have to put that online here pretty soon. But it's a 4x8 table, and I had it custom built because labor there is pretty reasonable. And so I went to a woodsmith, and and I just told them exactly what I wanted. So what I wanted was an international cupping table, and it has 8 cupping stations. So you work your way all the way around a rectangle 4x8 table. SCA has regulations how tall or short it can be and those things. So I did the lowest height that I possibly could because I'm just shy of 6 foot and I have tower over most of the people there.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted it low to the ground, so to speak. And then each station on an international cupping table has 5 cups for each coffee. So it'll hold 40 cups of coffee, but you're only cupping 8 at a time. So
Gotcha.
most of the time I don't, cup 5. I guess I just wanted to be fancy and have a fancier table. So he
Sure.
actually put little indentions in the table for each of the cups. So normally what we'll do is we'll take I varnished it a bunch of times so I can use a dry erase marker on it. And so I generally just do 20. I'll do 20 cups. I'll do them all down one side of the table. And then we'll put a Post-it note, and then we'll write the number of the lot on it. And then we go down through and cup it. And then I write the notes down. And then my wife or, whoever I can drag into the building will come in and cup with me. And everybody has a little Post-it note, and they stick on there with their opinions. And from that, I miss half the time. I miss some of the flavors. But what I do is I want to make sure, first of all, there's not any bad lots.
Sure.
This year we had one, and the guy just jokingly gave me a 30 on it because he thought it was funny. But you want to be 80 plus to have specialty grade
Yep.
coffee, and so he put a 30 on there. And the cupping notes were chemical and pharmaceutical. Those are my cupping notes. And
Not usually what you're looking for.
no, but that is one of the big problems. And towards the end, I'm going to go over exactly what canal washed, red honey, and full natural means. But a lot of times, if you buy a coffee and it just says natural, and I'm going to say a lot of times because I can't evidence what I'm saying, but I know how other farms process. And normally a natural, or some people will call it a pulped natural. And what that means is they leave it in the cherry for about 4 or 5 days, throw it back in a tank and hydrate it, and then pulp it and wash it. A full natural means that you let it dry until it's 12.5% moisture in the cherry. And so in doing so, that coffee wants to ferment. And if you're not real careful, it'll over ferment. And so if you were to feed it things like, yeast and all that you'd feed it to make it turn into wine, then you wouldn't have any problems. But without doing that, it'll ferment, it'll try to create alcohols, and then it just is ruined. Already green coffee can't be used for compost because it takes years for it to compost. And I don't want a Bourbon seed or Lempira seed in my lot of Marseillaise. So I separate all those coffees. And so for that reason, the full natural takes up 3 times more patio space, takes twice as long to dry. It takes twice as much manpower to dry it, to work it on the patio. And it's 10 times more likely to go bad than a regular coffee. So for that reason, coffee is a lot more expensive, and it's I do a lot less of it because if the weather's not perfect, then I won't even try it just because it's such a pain in the butt. But this year, a lot of people were excited to see that this year I actually did a lot more of the natural because I had just really great weather in March. And so we literally processed a ton of it. So I have over 2,000 pounds of natural this year. And it's just some of the craziest flavor profiles that we've ever had. From mango and ripe fruit is what the Marseillaise natural was. Let me jump over here to my other naturals. So they've got cocoa, honey, and ripe fruit is one of them. Cocoa mango and fruit is another one. Chocolate and cocoa, milk chocolate, red fruit cocoa and honey. Those are just, and then my other meal, the most unique one was the mango. So it's just all over the charts. What and those that I just read off to you are all the Lempira variety, and so it's just crazy what the different fruits, different flavors, and
Yeah.
completely different flavors that come from the exact same plant, same farm, same
Sure.
same drying conditions, same people working it. And so it's a very interesting plant. Having said that, natural is one of my least favorite coffees. The full natural. It is so strong that
Yeah.
and I
It's
drink.
definitely not for everyone.
My wife loves it, but I drink a lot of coffee, and so
Hmm.
I'll generally drink the Perinema. Well, most of my canal washed, something in the process of washing it, canal wash process, it takes a lot of the acidity out of it, and so I enjoy a low acid coffee. I'm a fairly new drinker to coffee. Excuse me, I haven't had much today. I've been sort of busy. The green coffee orders have been great the last 2 days. So I haven't had time to stop and drink coffee. So I showed, there's a few people online. I showed them my Stroop waffle, and I enjoy buying little coffee cups. So
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you can see me live or not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. One of my favorite things to do, especially when I'm there by myself. When you have kids, I'm guessing you've got kids.
Yes, I got two.
They are a peaceful, calm joy in your life 24 hours a day. I would bet that. Uh, but I have two boys, and now that they're bigger, where they can each make each other cry. Generally, it was sort of one sided, but generally somebody was crying or complaining. They get along a lot, but that happens when we get boxed in on Sunday and we don't go anywhere.
Uh-huh.
So my peaceful Sunday is getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I'll make me a thing of, like a thermos thing of coffee, get me some bread or stroopwafel, and just walk out in the farm and just start walking.
Sure.
When I'm there with Eli, my youngest son, he's 13 now, and we get out and about. So we're going to get up early. We're going to watch Levi Lusko or somebody on YouTube. That's going to be our church. We're going to eat a big breakfast, and it's always turkey bacon, which the boys call real bacon. We're going to do turkey bacon, 6, 8, 10 eggs, toast. We're just going to really have a big breakfast because we have chicken, so we always have eggs. So we're gonna blow out that, and then we're gonna do church and get that out of the way, and not out of the way. That's a bad way to say
but do it. Yes.
Yeah, we'll get church done, and we usually head to town. And the goal is to fart around. We hit the open market and buy just every fruit we can get. You score when you find good avocados and strawberries. We get our truck loaded down with that, and then we start just walking through the dry market where you can just buy anything. If you need socks, underwear, toothpaste, there's little stands that have everything. But if I can buy a coffee cup for less than $2, I generally buy 4 of them, and I'll bring them back to the States, and I'll give 2 of them away, and I keep 2. So
Okay.
I've probably got like 20 cups in my collection. I don't want to collect anything stupid and expensive. So if
Sure.
I got these with saucers were $2 for a cup each for a cup and saucer. So
Cool.
$4 I got me, little cups. And I had a customer come in the other day, and we sat down and had coffee. And when it was done, he's like bragged on my coffee cup. So I just put a pair of them in a bag and sent them home with them. So I've got a couple earmarked for some customers this year, and we've ordered regular coffee cups this year too. So they're like campfire cups.
Oh, sure.
So we're going to have those. This one was a misprint. It doesn't have anything on the back, but on the back, I forget what the scripture is. I should know it, but it's my cup runneth over, and then the scripture
Sure.
that goes with that. And so we got them from 4 imprints.
Oh, I've heard of them.
I've been tickled with them. We ordered 78 was the minimum order. So we ordered 78, and you have to proof it. And so I proofed it and they proofed it. And then when they showed up, they didn't have the logo, the thing on the back, my cup runneth over. And so they said, just, if it's a marketing thing, just throw them away, give them away. They're yours. And
No.
then within a week, they sent us 124 cups.
Wow.
And so I was very impressed with them.
That's
And
very
so,
good customer service.
yeah, I was tickled with them. So we're going to order. It's getting to be winter here in a couple of months. So we're going to order some insulated tumblers with our logo, and then we're going to order the regular coffee cup, and we'll have those online for. We don't try to make a profit. I factor in giving away a certain percentage of them, and we just try to break even.
Sure.
So I think last year the coffee cups were $8 or $9 for the
Mhm.
coffee cup, so it wasn't too bad. And so yeah, I've enjoyed working with them. So hopefully they'll be here in about 10 days, and we'll start sending out some coffee. But what is it? Remind me what you roast on at home.
I have a 1 kilo, 1K Mill City roaster.
Ooh. Yeah, have you ever spoken with Steve over there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I actually bought my roaster secondhand and road tripped out to Colorado to pick it up, and I called and left a message at Mill City, and Steve called me 20 minutes later. He was at some conference, but he still called me and talked me through what to look for. I mean, he knew right away I wasn't buying a new one from them, and he was still cool with talking with me. And then I talked with Joe Morocco for quite a while as well about it. And I've been to their campus for classes 2-3 times because I live not that far from them, and they're great.
Well, I was, at first we just sold green coffee. And so one of my first 2 shipments that had ever come to the States, I don't know what I'm doing 90% of the time. Somebody called me on their podcast. They wanted a coffee expert. And I said, listen, I can tell you some funny stories and I can tell you what I know about coffee, but I am so far from an expert. I get around some of these guys and they're like, we know at the 3rd stage of development, and I'm like, got no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I do my best, and hopefully my customers like it. But I just I picked up my phone one day and I was walking across the patio in Honduras, and I said, well, I'm just going to call some random people and just ask some opinions and things like that. And I called Mill City, and Steve answered the phone. And so my wife was close, and and he said, well, it's so advantageous that you just called me. And so I'm like, crap. So I hit the mute button. I tell Julia, look up advantageous. Because, I thought I knew what it meant, but I wasn't going to, have I made him mad? I wanted to know for sure before I commented any further. And he said, I just stepped out of a meeting to where we were talking about we need to have more direct relationship with farmers. And so he said, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to do what I'm going to call a buddy buy. I don't want samples. He said, we'd talk for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I've never had a farm that I could buy. And at that point it was a Lempira, and I'd done canal washed, red honey, and full natural. He said, from the same farm, the same coffee, processed 3 different ways. And so he said, I'll take 9 bags. And he said, can you get me a bag of defects? He said, I want the junk y'all pulled out. He said, just fill a 150-pound bag and I'll pay for it. And I think he ended up paying us like $1 a pound for that, for the defects, because he used it in his school. And
Sure.
Then he invited me to come to the roasting school. And back then Joe was working with him. So I got to speak with him a little bit. But Steve just seemed like a real personal guy. And then the history of how he sort of, he had a machine shop and made parts for old Probats, and then got into he actually went to China to the I forget what it used to be called. It used to be called North Star,
Yeah,
North
North
Roasters or
Roasters.
something.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he ended up, I guess, buying the factory, and
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so and so now they're still. I think a lot of it's still made there, but he oversees the factory and everything, and it's all to his specs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
made because I've got a friend in Honduras, and he has a North Roaster and a Mill City, and they're almost identical, but you can look at some of the parts and tell there's a difference in the
Okay.
parts.
Yeah.
Uh,
And mine is an old Mill City, so I know that they've definitely tightened their tolerances and made some changes. In general, it's the same roaster, but I know the brand new ones are they look nicer and just are probably better put together than what mine is. But mine is a beast of a roaster. It's still way over engineered and heavy duty, and I love it. It's wonderful.
well, I'm going to go back to Honduras in a couple weeks, and I might give you a call because my buddy, he has the two. One of them is not sparking and won't light,
Oh.
and I'll sort of see. They sold it to him as a sample roaster, but it's actually a 1K.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was wanting something to do, 200 and 300 gram samples because he owns a coffee mill.
Okay.
And so I told him I could give him a hand with it. And I called Steve and he said, call me when you're there. But it never worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to find out a little more about it and maybe get your input. And then I'll give Steve a call and see if he can get me the manuals and stuff for it. I'm sure they got them
Oh,
on.
sure.
But well, I don't know.
I've got another guy that I have sold um, some green beans to over the last few years, and he just bought a Mill City 1K as well, secondhand. And his, I think, wasn't in as good a shape as mine was. He totally tore his down completely, cleaned it up, and rebuilt it back. And he might be a pretty good resource as well. Um, and he and I touch base every couple months or so, see how each other's doing and all that. So um, I know I could get a hold of him, and he might have some good information too.
Well, I can probably use any help that you've got because
Sure.
I've uh, I've taken my. I don't know if you can see mine back there. I have
Mm-hmm.
it set
Yep.
up. I've taken it apart a few times because I've set it on fire a few times, and so most of the time the blower motor has to be rebuilt because when the coffee comes out and it's on fire, then it just deforms and warps those blades. The
Sure.
last time I did it, it warped the mesh that's in the cooling tray, and so
Okay.
we weren't able to get mesh, so we took it out. We took boards and laid it on boards and beat it flat, just like one little square inch at a time, to
Huh.
where we could get it back in there and get it roasting again.
Wow. Wow.
But in Honduras, we jokingly call it third crack. They really want it roasted dark.
Okay.
It's not just dripping oil. They don't want it. The stores will refuse it if it's not, that dark. But
Wow.
in doing so, that learning curve cost me hundreds of dollars. But this is an an artisan machine for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
once I got it, it had a cheap, and I'm not knocking Chinese, but it had a cheap Chinese temperature gauge on it. And the first 2 months, it quit. It just all of a sudden it was climbing, 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 and it just went bloop, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought it's more of an industrial one. I think it's called Ashcroft or something like that. It
Okay.
was like, it was $75 or $80,
Hmm.
and it's nice. Yeah, it's the only problem is it's slow, and any of the analog ones are going to be slow. So from there, I just started looking around, and I bought it's a Fidget 1048
Okay.
block. And then I bought two K probes. Well, I bought a couple of K probes, but I installed two of them, one in the upper chamber of the, and then one right there with, that'll mix in with the beans. Uh,
Sure.
and so they stay about 10 or 15 degrees apart. the top of the drum and then the
Sure.
actual beans. And
Yep.
then, but the analog one is usually about 25 or 30 degrees behind the digital. The
Yeah.
digital is right on the money fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the main modification that I made to the machine. And then a buddy of mine, while I was in Honduras, he loaded the Artisan program onto my laptop from Tennessee, and got it all set up for me because I'm computer illiterate.
Mm.
And so he got it all set up, and so I've been roasting with the Artisan since then. I got a notice today that I'm supposed to update the Artisan, so I dread that. Every time
Yeah.
I touch
Those
it,
are not always fun.
I lose a probe or something. So you're at the point for like there's a lot of home roasters that are watching. You're at the point where you're selling at farmers markets and places like that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a market that I go to most Saturday mornings. Yep.
Because that would be a massive home roaster. A 1K
Yes.
is. So if you put in, have you got like a favorite batch size?
I usually do a full 1K, because that say a lot of roasters, 75 to 80%
Yeah.
is the I do a full 1K on the 1K machine, and there's no issue at all in doing that. I have gone down when I've gotten some samples. I've gone down to a little under a pound at a time, and the Mill City's fortunate in that there's enough things that I can slow down the drum a little bit and play with a couple other variables, so I can do a small batch just fine.
Well, Herbert was going to try to get his 1K to where he could do like 200-gram samples. So that's going to be 7 ounces more or less.
Yeah.
Because they're just not wanting to waste any coffee. Every penny's profit,
Sure. Yeah.
And so he wanted some kind of, because we think of it as a poor country, but it's like either you're super rich or you're super poor. There's very little middle class.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the labs you're going to go to have got either 1, 2, or 3 of those double barrel Probat samples.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And they're $15,000 each.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, poor thing, you only have 3. But I've had good luck with my Hucky. It took me about a year, a year really to do it. And then I've got blessed, and I've got another one here in the roastery here in Kansas. And so then a customer came in, and he bought the Hucky and used it for a couple of years. And he ended up buying the Alio Bullet or something like that.
Yep.
He bought that. And so I traded him a bunch of green coffee. And so I'm going to fix him up with green coffee for the next year or two. And so I've got a third Hucky.
Okay.
And so I'm going to take it down, and I'm going to make a cupping lab. I'm going to take a grinder in there and sort of set up a basic cupping lab. And I'm going to hire 1 day a week a cupper to come in. And then all these little guys that have these tiny farms, I'm going to have him cup their coffee and actually give them a full analysis, the entire cupping score.
Sure.
Which,
that's cool.
It's a certified cupping sheet, and it'll be this guy here. And then they'll be able to go into a mill, and if they've got an 86 coffee, they'll be able to negotiate a price for it.
That's really cool.
And so, and they'll be able to, and it's where we're working out a credit system. So once they sell their coffee, then they come back and pay me for the cupping score, because I have to pay the cupper.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to donate the machine. It'll be part of the nonprofit, but they're going to have to pay $1. We're going to charge $1 extra, and that'll just cover our gas and some parts. Because
sure.
I feel like we'll do 200 or 300 or 400 samples a year.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can, everything sort of has to. If it can't pay for itself, it needs to support itself. So if I can get $200 or $300 a year to go towards propane and parts and that, then that'll be good enough for us. And
Sure.
then it's not just one more drain on the nonprofit.
Yeah. Yep.
And so and won't open a coffee shop. I'm hoping somebody will donate a $15,000 espresso machine. That's the main thing keeping us from opening.
Sure.
We're
Yeah.
I'm gonna
That's
go down there with 3 Aereo presses, and so we're gonna call that my poor man's espresso.
yeah. Yep.
And that makes a pretty good cup of coffee pretty
It
fast.
does. It's amazing what that little thing can do.
And so literally, we're going to use 3 of them. I've got a couple of air pots I'm taking down, and then I've got a brand new. It's a bun. I can't think what it is. It takes about 40 minutes for the water to heat, and then it'll every 4.5 minutes it'll do like a pour over type brew, and it'll put out 2 gallons. So I can usually put out about 2 gallons every 5 minutes.
Okay.
And it does a really good quality cup of coffee because
Yeah.
it'll put some water in and it'll steep it, and then it'll steep it again. And so it does a little bit of water that waits 30 seconds, does a little bit more water and waits another
Oh.
30 seconds, and then it goes ahead and brews it. It's not as nice as the one Steve has, the automated pour over that he has at Mill City.
Yeah, those are pretty nice.
It'll be what we need for the coffee shop. It'll be and the church. We have a church, and even the kids there drink a lot of coffee.
Okay.
Oh, the last part of the story about Steve was he for 2 years he used our coffee to roast with, so that when the guys were going through the roasting school, they could roast and compare 3 different coffee, 3 processes, exactly 3 different varieties are exactly the same with 3 completely different processes and 3 completely different flavor profiles. So
Sure.
he got me started with a lot of the smaller roasters. And he put
how long ago was that you started that with him?
Probably 5 years ago. But,
Okay.
He let me know. He said it's a buddy buy, so he bought one time and never again. Because they buy straight from the mill with a lot of places, and they buy a lot of Olam, and Olam is a mill buying coffee, and so
they do a lot with cafe imports too, which is right in North Minneapolis, not far from them.
No, Cafe Imports is who I meant.
Yep.
And so I know they go because I used to be friends on Facebook with Joe, and one day I was sitting on my porch on my coffee farm in Honduras, and I logged onto my Facebook, and it's like people you might know, come up sometimes. Well, it's like friends near you, which never happens, And all of a sudden it said Joe Morocco is a mile away from you or whatever. And so he was literally driving by my house.
Oh, wow.
But he was going to some of the big farms down there. So I didn't get to bring him out to the farm. I sure tried, but it would have been fun to have him.
He's a good guy. I like him.
But we enjoy having people out on the farm. I built a little apartment a couple years ago. This year I'm going to tile the floor, but it's I've got hot water in it now. I built it's got its own shower and bathroom, so it's a pretty neat little thing. I built a tiny patio, like an 8x8 patio out in front of it with one of those umbrella things. But you just got an amazing view.
I've seen some of your pictures. Yeah, you do for sure.
Well, and I told him, I guess about 2 years ago, I was in Honduras and I got COVID. And so I can only imagine what it would cost to ship my dead body back to the States, just to stick me in a hole here.
Yeah.
So, I told him, I said, unless it's an insurance thing, I have life insurance. So unless it's an insurance thing, I said, bury me. My son had a chicken when he was 4. And it was his pet chicken. And when the chicken died, he said, Daddy, this is the saddest day of my life. And so we had a formal funeral. I think it was a wooden box. I built a steel cross in the welding shop and put his name on it, the chicken's name. And I said, it's by a big eucalyptus tree. And I said, bury me by the chicken. And so that's where I want to be.
There you go.
That's right off the back porch. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's good enough, man. I really don't care where I'm at. But if I get a vacation from heaven sometime, at least I'll be there, you know.
Yeah.
Because what is that song? If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, yeah, you know, Hank Williams had a song.
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to go. I said,
Yep.
well, if it's truly heaven, it's got to be a little something like my back porch on a sunset.
Sure thing.
And so I've got one file on my Google that's just sunset pictures, and it's just an amazing view, and it's different every day. You know,
Yeah.
it's Eli came out today, and we homeschool, and they were studying birds, and he said, "What's your favorite bird?" And I said, "It's the toucan." I don't let the guys pick the banana plants around my office because I enjoy when they get ripe. The toucans. There's a short beak, and then there's the fruit loop, you know, long beak
Yeah.
toucan or toucan. And I like watching them just tear up those ripe bananas.
Yeah.
And they just sit there, and they've got the loudest. I don't know if you call it a chirp. It's like they're
Mm.
yelling. They've got the most, you know, distinctive yell.
Mm.
And my second favorite bird, I think they call them suspindalos, but they're a communal bird. I think in English they're called Oreos. If you look up Oreos,
Okay.
they build this 3-foot bag and they lay their eggs in it. And then once the eggs start hatching, the mother birds just fly up, hold on to the side, and you see the little babies' beaks come out, and they start feeding them through the bag.
Mm.
And so at some point, the birds get big enough, they climb out, fly away. So I love watching those birds because when
Sure.
the babies are in there, you just see it, you know, it's like swinging back and forth because they're all in there moving around. But it's just a really unique bird. And then with Eli's studies today, they said that the toucans will attack and kill the babies and eat them of
Oh
the
my.
other birds. I'm like, well, my two favorite birds, one of them hates the other. But no, it's just some of the most unique things. We're on some migratory routes for a couple of insects. Some of them are those freaky giant wasps, but
Ooh.
there's like 3 or 4 butterflies. And around my drying patio, I put up a 6-foot chicken fence because dogs will come through, people come through, and we're trying to keep that as sanitary as we can.
Sure.
And then one day we came out and there were thousands of cocoons
Mm.
that were attached to the chicken wire.
Wow.
And one day we were out there having a meeting and just sitting out there drinking coffee, having a meeting. And you could just start seeing those little cocoons started just moving. And then within
Started
20
opening.
minutes, hundreds of them were.
Wow.
And then within an hour or two, there was literally hundreds, if not thousands, of butterflies, and they flutter their wings for a long time to dry out
To
before
dry them out. Yeah.
fly. And then all of a sudden, they just like
Hmm.
started going. And for the
Wow.
next 2 days, you had late bloomers popping up every so often.
Sure.
And
Man, that
every
had to
single
be
one
quite
of
a
them-
sight.
every single one of them took off in the exact same direction and left.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't know. You know, you don't know what to think about that. You know,
Yeah.
it's somebody programmed something into them at some time.
Huh.
But yeah, we've got a giant mountain lion out there.
Oh wow.
And she's never bothered anybody. As far as I've seen, she's a girl. But they were talking about, you know, the mountain lion. And it's like, well, there's just one. And I was like, you know, I hate to bust your bubble, but there can't be just one.
Yeah.
Moved here from a different
It
town.
just doesn't work that way.
I said, there's a mom and daddy mountain lion somewhere. And she probably wasn't an only child over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But we're in a wildlife preserve. So there's deer. There's a cool gray and black boa that are like 8 foot long.
Hmm.
But, you know, just squirrels, rabbits. I've never seen the armadillos, but there's big holes out there where they bored them. There's just tons of different things. They say there's an anteater, but I've definitely never seen him. But it
Yeah.
more to him if he wants to eat those crazy ants. because you do not stand still uh, on the farm until you ID where you're standing, because those
Sure.
fire ants will just run up your leg, and then they have a, is it a pheromone? Is that what they're called?
So I
When
think that sounds right. Yeah.
when they, I can't spell it, but I can barely say it. But when the one bites you, they just all bite you, man. It's just
Yeah.
awful, especially if they go high up the pants leg. And so that
I
there
got
is
bit by
in
fire
years.
ants when we were living in Texas, and it's not pleasant.
There was a day where I ran as far as I could, where I knew nobody was going to see, and I took my pants off. I'm not going to do it in front of all these people.
Uh,
But yeah, it's just been so many. We've got a 40-something foot waterfall on the farm. There's just some amazing things, and I think that my kids have had a really good experience growing up with that.
I'm sure of that. Yeah.
Eli turned 4 the day after he moved there, and when we came back from COVID, and that was the main reason we came back. They were closing the border, and they were very strict. They just lifted the COVID regulations in May.
Oh wow.
Where we didn't have to wear a mask, wash our hands. The guard would, you'd walk in May, you walked into the bank and the guard would squirt your hands with whatever he had in his bottle. And you
Hmm.
had to wear a mask. We were still 6 feet apart. Still limited number of people could go in the bank. They just lifted those in May. But
Wow.
when COVID hit, they shut the border down. And people, you guys can gripe all you want to about the United States. Even though we were in a lot of different lockdowns, we were still free.
Yeah.
If you got caught on the street in Honduras, you would go to jail.
Wow.
Was that? And if you didn't get COVID in jail, I don't know where you're going to get it.
Yeah. Really.
And
Yeah.
so, and Lord only knows what else in jail. But
Yeah.
uh, and so they shut the border down, but they, as North Americans, they gave us the opportunity if we could get a flight to leave, and
Okay.
it was a nightmare getting to the airport. We got stopped at one checkpoint. We had to get out of the truck. They drug our luggage out. They sprayed our luggage with bleach, the bottom of our shoes with bleach. They sprayed the inside of my truck with bleach.
Oh
And
my.
we were required to wear surgical gloves and a mask at all times, whether we were in the truck with just our family or not. And as I was moving up, they told me, drive slow, drive slow. And a guy got on either side of my truck and sprayed my tires as they made the complete rotation.
Wow.
And we had paperwork to get to the airport. Our flight had been canceled 3 times, but we did not have paperwork to get back home. And so if we didn't make the airport, we were in trouble, because the
You were
airport,
stuck.
yeah, the airport closes. And so we would have been, we'd have been in a mess if we couldn't have gotten out.
Oh.
But then we landed in Houston. Delta kept changing our flights, and so finally we got a United flight. And but we got to Houston, the rental car we had reserved, people weren't returning them, and so the manager finally let us have his really nice SUV that he had with Hertz, and we drove back. But we drove 3 or 4 hours before we ever found a restaurant open.
Hmm.
And, thank goodness it wasn't Sunday, because Chick-fil-A was open, and
Yeah.
she had like a little tray on a stick, and she handed the food out to us, and we were on our way. And so we had no knowledge of how bad it was here or how bad it was there, but it was 5 weeks that it took us to get out. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
we'd run out of water in the house. We were drinking spring water from a natural spring on the farm, and I was violating the rules, and I was getting out on the street on the motorcycle, and there was a couple of stores that were open for people to walk to. And one day I went into a store and they had 3 cases of romaine noodles. So I bought that. And my wife made me promise I wouldn't buy everything. She's like, because other people got to eat too. And so I was buying the more expensive food that I knew they wouldn't buy. So
Sure.
I bought like 15 candy bars, because generally people don't buy those, and romaine noodles are expensive, and they're sort of a luxury and a treat. So I bought most all of the romaine noodles I had, everything I could get in my backpack, and I tied the romaine noodles on the back of the motorcycle. But because you couldn't get to the store and buy bottled water, and
Hmm.
the water that came into the house, we didn't drink, because it wasn't chlorinated or anything. It was just we diverted a pipe from the river. So it's
Okay.
so many blessings we have here that we take for granted.
Sure.
Uh, but no, the coffee this year, 3 years ago, we lost 60% of the crop. So four
Wow.
years 4 years ago, we had 203 bags of coffee, and then it went from that to 96 bags.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then last year, we really poured the fertilizer to it, but that was killing us because with the war on Russia, the fertilizer tripled. And so we're trying to recoup from those hurricanes beating up our plants. And so we were trying to, up the fertilizer a little bit when it was 3 times more expensive. And so we went from the 96 to 160. And then this year we had 180 or 181 bags.
Okay.
So it was a little bit better, but we still should be around the 250 mark. So next year we're shooting for 250.
Okay.
I've changed the fertilizer. We've added 3 more organic fertilizings, and then we're going to do 2 conventional fertilizings. So this year, so we're hoping that that gets it back in the swing. But
Sure.
I don't know because we've had the best cupping scores that we've ever had. Across the board.
And where have they fallen? What kind of scores do you have this year?
The lowest score that we have is 83.5, which is well into the
Okay.
specialty. And then the highest, we had a couple of 88s.
No, that's excellent.
But most of our roasters don't even ask about the scores as
Sure.
much as the cupping notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got one that I haven't had time to roast it, and I didn't see the official scores, but one of them is dulce de leche, which is what you put on a dessert called tres leches. It's
Mm-hmm.
the caramel creamy stuff you pour on the top of tres leches. It's honey, dulce de leche, and grapefruit.
Okay. Wow.
That's one coffee that has that. The coffee above it, which is an 86.5, it is sugarcane, honey, and grapefruit. So it's just crazy. And then that one's a honey. That's a honey process. Is sugarcane, honey, and grapefruit. And then the same coffee, but in a washed, is honey, bread, or roasted bread, sugarcane, and grapefruit.
Okay. Hmm.
It's just crazy. But the one that I'm most excited about is a washed berry nema, cupped in 86. I have 2 full bags of it, caramel and passion fruit. And so one of my favorite drinks in Honduras is passion fruit.
Okay.
We grow passion fruit on the farm.
Gotcha.
And it came from, I was visiting a house and they offered me coffee. And I said, I had some coffee before I came here. I said, I'm fine. And so like she comes out 20 minutes later and she'd gone out, picked fruit, cut it open, squeezed it or whatever you do to it, and brought me a fresh glass of Maricuá, which is passion fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Never had it before. And I just loved it. And so I had 2 or 3 glasses of it, knowing better, because rule 1, when you visit a foreign country, do you know what rule number 1 is?
Don't drink the water.
Don't drink the water.
Yeah.
What is passion fruit made with? What is coffee made with?
Sure.
Yeah. So I knew what was going to happen tomorrow. This stuff is great. I said, can it really be that much worse if I drink 1 cup or 3?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was bad.
Yeah.
So when she got done, she poured it through a cheesecloth, and she gave me the seeds. And so
Okay. Oh, cool.
I went into my seed house and planted them, and ended up with like 50 plants.
Wow.
And so we planted them because I think, oh, this is a great idea. Well, passion fruit is a vine. It took over about a 30-foot orange tree and killed it.
Killed it.
Killed it. Yeah. And so we spent about a week cutting down and dragging them out of the trees just because it just took over.
Sure.
So we've got a couple of them that we groom just to make and it's, it's a spoiled North American. I've got one coffee that's my private garden, and then I've got a couple plants that are my little Maricuá plants.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm in country, they'll pick them for me. The rest of the time they pick them and take them home.
Yeah.
But I have a coffee called Mario Hipe that I think this year I had 18 pounds of. And so that's my personal coffee. I just grew
Cool.
it for me. It
That's
came from
great.
30, it was 3,400 plants that I planted. And it was the best coffee. So the best coffee I've ever had. They call them elephant beans, but they looked for every opportunity to die.
Really.
First year, we lost 1,000 plants.
Hmm.
And so every disease, they make up diseases and catch them and die. And so I finally just said, forget it. And so I had them transplant 80 plants just right off my back porch. And from that, about 50 of them really did well. And I probably spend 3 times more money on those plants. The ladies are close by, and so they go down and spend a lot of time, grooming them and stuff. But actually, with that plant this year, I won 4th place in the Marcala Coffee Fest
Wow.
out of 88 farms. I was tickled
Cool.
with it.
Yeah.
They made a bigger deal about me being a white guy winning. I was the first white person ever to win
Yeah.
any of the coffee fests.
Huh.
And so one year I won 6th place in the county fair, but this was more like a state fair. And Marcala is pretty famous for coffee, so
Okay.
I was tickled with it.
That's great.
Normally on the podcast, I have a banner that streams that said 4th place winner of the Marcala Coffee Fest. I was jacking around with it, and didn't get it up there tonight. But I'm trying to put together a group of home roasters, along with a group of guys like you. That because you started out as a home roaster, I'm guessing.
I still have probably 4 different home roasters. Yep.
Well, most guys, and I may be guessing, but I think most guys with the popcorn popper aspire to a 50K Probat one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I do too. I put the cart in front of the horse. Before I bought a sample roaster, I roasted about twice with my oven, and learned how to set coffee on fire. And then I roasted about 10 times with just the air popcorn popper. And then
Yep.
I bought Helen.
Okay. That one.
Yeah. And so I'm like, this is too hard. I can't do this.
Yeah.
I know what my capacities in life are, but I don't think I can learn how to roast on a coffee popcorn popper. And so I said, if I'm going to learn how to roast, and so literally I would watch Roaster Joe and roast, and I would I'm like, well, crap, I better change that, right mid roast. He said, do something. So I did it. And so I just trial and error learned how to roast.
Yeah.
And once I got to where I knew sort of how to take it out, Don Napo, he passed last year, but he taught me how to roast, but all of his were stick fired. They burned coffee trunks.
Mm.
And that's how they fire their roasters. But eventually, before he passed, his business was so big, he had a 50-pound and 3 100-pound roasters.
Wow.
And they were on the 4 corners of the room, and the cooling trays were all, facing each other. And he would make his round, and that dude had a tolerance for pain. He would take the trier out, and he would take that grain out and just bite it, and then spit it in his hand. And he would look at it, and then he'd put one out and crush it. And then he'd say 4 more minutes, and he'd walk to the next one, 3 more minutes. And the guy would, write the time down, and he would start dumping them, whenever the boss said.
Wow.
And that guy I think he sold, 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of Wakuko every week.
Hmm.
So he was you couldn't go anywhere without Don Napo. And he passed last year. The communications there are poor. People don't, talk regularly. And so I was actually in town when he passed, and didn't get to go to his funeral or anything. But I go to his coffee shop all the time. His son, Jorgito, runs the coffee shop, and still his wife runs the mill and all, and the roastery. So he was a good guy. He, spent a lot of time fooling with me, and knowing that I didn't know what I was doing, but just gave me a lot of good pointers, and he understood about half what I said, and he understood, and vice versa. but that coffee is sort of an international kind of language. You drink it, you either
Sure.
like it or you don't.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so between that and Google, uh, you can, or YouTube videos, you can learn quite a bit. And
Oh yeah.
I hope people learn quite a bit from the, YouTube videos that we're doing now. Um, Wiki Farms, which is Bill. Bill's on with me a lot. Yeah, I think he's just shy. He says his PC died, uh, but he's asking if we're selling a lot of coffee. Uh, yeah, out of the 8 bags that we put online Monday, I think we've sold about half of them right at.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I've been tickled. Once I get a little more organized, I just don't have room. I've never had 8 different coffees online at the same time, so I've had to change the way I organize everything. It's fairly simple when I'm just, we were running low on coffee, so we sold a washed and a honey.
Sure.
And so it was fairly simple. I just run my cart over there and I'd fill all the bags that said honey, and then I'd run it over there and do the ones that said washed. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, somebody did an 8-pound order the other day. They ordered 1 pound of 8 different coffees.
Oh gosh.
And so, but, and I
I
like,
won't make it that complicated when I order.
no, I think you should this year, because, just they're so they're just so unique what all the different flavors are.
Sure.
Definitely PM me before you order, and
Okay.
let's talk about what you order. I've got to deliver some coffee Saturday. Um, in order, all the bags have to be 151 pounds. That's 60
Hmm.
kilos. Uh, and so in order to do that, sometimes you'll open up a bag and there'll be like 8 or 9 little small, tiny bags in there. And so that was because that lot ended up with 123 pounds extra. And so they had to just keep putting in whatever piece of bags they had till they hit 151.
Sure.
And so, because they charge me for shipping one bag 151.8 pounds. So
Hmm.
I'm paying whether there's coffee in there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in doing so, I opened up a bag the other day, and a customer came in yesterday. He wanted to buy some Bourbon, and I knew there was like literally 9 bags on top of the Bourbon. And so I'm like, I just don't have time to dig through them. And you can't just dig through them. Every one of those little bags needs to be inventoried in and put in a certain place. And so I said, I got 4.5 pounds. I can't open up another bag to get you 8 ounces of coffee out. And,
Hmm.
uh, but by the end of this week, I'll have at least 6 other bags open. And so there's some unique stuff. And if you want to just have some personal stuff, uh, that one coffee is pretty unique. The Sargi Moore, it's washed honey and natural. And so I don't care. I'll get you, if you want a half a pound of each one of them. Just let me know if it's just something you want to test and try out.
Okay.
I've
Cool.
I've got time the next couple of weeks to like really mix and match some stuff.
Okay.
And if you want, I'll shoot you a picture of my list of everything. Uh, and you tell me what you want to try. If I don't have the bag open yet, I'll just tell you I don't have it. Because like in my shipping container, the bags are stacked 5 high on the rack, and they're stacked 8 high on the floor. And so
Hmm.
there's sometimes you just can't dig out 8 bags, to get to that.
Sure. Yeah.
But most of the time, I could find some stuff. But
Okay.
I'm trying to get a day next week where I can just sample roast and go through and pick. I can't wait to try the passion fruit. Uh, I hate mangoes to eat, but I'd
Hmm.
like to try the one that's got mango in it. And I really want to try the 88 point coffees and just see what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this year is going to be it'll be a fun year. And
Good deal. Well, I have a couple people who will ask me, do you have anything different this week? I'm like, well, usually no. I have like 7 different varieties, and that I kind of standard have. So when I saw that you had green beans available, it's like, oh yes, I can grab some coffee from Ashley, and then my couple people, I can say, yes, I do have some something new, and this is really cool. I get this directly from the farmer, and
Well,
they'll appreciate it.
the year that you can say you went out there and actually picked some of it, then that'll just be that much better.
Absolutely. I will definitely look forward to that. That would be great.
But one of my best cupping scores is a Perry Nama. It's an 88, and I have 1,100 pounds of it.
Oh, wow.
And it's the one that says dulce de leche, honey, and grapefruit.
Okay.
And so that one we're actually sending a sample to. Is it Scott Rao? It's like ROE.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote
Yep.
he sent me a message today, and he let me know the lowest that he did was 87.5.
Really?
So I'm like, I can handle that. But I'm going to send him my the coffee that I won fourth place with, and then 288s, and let him try those. I mainly want him to get them to review them because
Sure.
he's got like 80,000 followers.
Yeah. He's a pretty big name.
So I mean, that would be worth. I would drive all the way to Colorado to hand them the bags if I could.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, we're going to wrap it up pretty quick. But it was great to have you on. But I've been talking to Bill and a buddy of mine called Patrick, and I say buddies, but we've talked 100 times, but we haven't met each other. Hoping to meet Bill next week. I'm going to drive towards him. He's going to drive towards me. And and Bill was saying that he bought the next best score we had was 87, and he bought all of that already. So
all right.
It wasn't my coffee. It's from one of my favorite workers, Santiago, and he had a coffee this year, and I said, well, just bring me what you can, because a lot of times they're in debt to the mill, and so he brought me everything that he didn't owe to the mill, and I bought it and had it cupped, and Bill saw it, and so Bill bought the whole farm from Santiago.
Okay.
And so I think he owed the mill like $150 because he's got just a tiny farm, and the mill makes you pay them in coffee. They won't let you pay back the debt.
Okay.
So they charge you 4% interest a month, which is 48% a year on your debt, and then they've got you for life pretty much at that point.
Sure.
But no, I think I'm trying to get something together here in a couple of weeks where we do, and I'll let you know. We'll go ahead and schedule the program. If like 8 o'clock or 9 p.m. works for you, if not, I'll start a group with you and a couple other guys, and we'll find a time, and maybe it's be easier for us to do a recorded one, and then start promoting it on some of the home roasting sites, and see if we can get a few more of the home roasters to join in. But just Bill's in that stage now where he's B more and Fresh Roast 800, and he's got two B mores. He's doing the extension tube, so he's getting ready if he decides to make that jump to doing some farmers markets.
Yeah.
And you've already made that jump, and then you've got yourself a commercial roaster now. But I've got a lot more guys. I think Patrick's a Fresh Roast, and we've got a couple of Hucky guys. And so I'd like to
I still have my Fresh Roast 500, and I've got a few more. And yep.
Well, I've got the Fresh Roast 700.
Okay.
And then I do the Huckies. So and I like that. It's fun. The Fresh Roast 700 is in the visitor's apartment. So and there's French press and V60 and grinder. So when you come and stay in the apartment, if you know what you're doing, then you can use the Fresh Roast. And
cool.
If you stay on the farm for 7 days, you can pick it, we'll fast dry it, and you can roast it and drink it before you leave.
Cool. That's neat.
And so, and then you can mark that bag, whatever you feel like picking, and I'll send that actual bag. You can buy your own bag.
Sure.
That's
great.
You come and pick it, I'll give it to you. How about that?
That sounds like a great deal.
If you hustle, you can make your plane ticket break even. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna close everything down and try to get in bed. I think I'm finished here in the roastery for the night. Yesterday, I forgot to roast the stupid decaf, so I had to fire the machine up to roast 25 pounds of decaf today. But I think I'm done. I can go to bed when I get done here. But feel free if you want to share this YouTube. It's on there. If you have any trouble downloading it, but you can, if you've got your own Facebook page or something, or your own YouTube, you can put it on your YouTube, and you can edit it however you want to. But just let me know how we can help you grow as a roaster.
Cool.
But for sure,
All right.
give me a call before you order, and let's
Will
talk
do.
about different things, and we'll go from there. Hey, Bill, thanks for coming on tonight. And yeah, let me know, because Bill and I are going to we'll try to meet next week, and I'll bring you a whole bunch of different cool coffees, and we'll get you guys fixed up. But thanks for coming on tonight, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
For everybody else, we're going to end it, but please come on and like us, follow us, share. Instagram, it's Legacy Farms Coffee 2010. That's all written as one word. YouTube, it's Legacy Farms Coffee 200. Plain old Legacy Farms Coffee at Facebook. And then it's Legacy Farms Coffee at hotmail.com. Or my number is 620-386-4833. Give me a call. But we're going to do a live one every Friday night to the best of our abilities at 9 o'clock Central. Please jump on and talk to us, and we hope to see you guys soon.